Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My messages to you are about a loving God, a practical one, a pure one, a beautiful one. I've said this to you before. You cannot fathom that which is the creative source. It does not have a consciousness of a human. The consciousness, if you even want to call that, of that which you would call the creative, the almighty, the beautiful, is beyond comprehension in its purity and its love. And that's what's in your soul. This little series of messages that I want to give, I will call invisible things. Invisible things. I've given you pieces and parts of this message before, but not in this chronology. And I want to tell you the story of invisible things in a human's life. And this first story will be invisible things in the beginning of life. Before we even discuss that which is invisible to a human being's sight, I want to talk about that which is invisible in the consciousness of all things. And it's the Kryon theme. And you will hear it so often. And here it is. When your soul is born on this planet, the miraculous invisible thing is that it's clean and that it's pure and that it echoes the love of God. And if you've been told anything else, you're not thinking in a way that would be spiritually logical or even benevolent to that which is the creation. Does it make sense to you that you would arrive and somehow, through some way, you would be unclean? Or that you would be here in a mysterious, unclean way, put here by a God that would then give you free choice and then judge your free choice. A God that would perhaps even torture you if you didn't make the right choice. That's not even a free choice. And yet that is the story, dear ones, from so many who've taken it from the stories of men, not God. That's the first and most beautiful, invisible thing. When you look at the infant right after it's born, and you come to view it in the hospital, that's pure, that's beautiful, that's precious, that's a soul that's clean. And it comes in, are you ready for this? Without something I'm now going to define. Sight bias. Every mother understands what I'm about to say, that the firstborn is the one you're most careful with. And the psychologist will tell you that it will enhance a child's ability to understand things around it if you will give that child something to look at while they're in the crib, perhaps even for hours staring at the ceiling. And you might then get them a toy, multicolors, something that moves by itself, just out of reach, so the child won't be able to injure themselves. But the psychologists and the doctors will tell you it's good for the baby. And it is. For it involves them already. It helps their eyes to start to focus and work correctly. It gives them a puzzle to look at. And then, interestingly enough, you will come up to the crib and find the child is not looking at that at all. The child is looking at something in the corner. And that something is entertaining them wildly. And they're chuckling and grinning and laughing and maybe even waving their arms at the spider web in the corner. And so many of you mothers have seen this. And you will say, what is it that the child sees? This is a child who has no sight bias. Humans are allowed to see many spectrums of dimensionality, dear ones. This is new information. You come in with the ability of many spectrums. But the only ones that are important to you are the ones that feed you or give you love, are the ones that are for survival. And those are the ones that start to focus themselves over the years, over the months, and they become reality. And the things that perhaps were available for you to see start to fade away. Parents in this room understand, and those who were children, of course, if you can remember, your invisible friends. And they were real to you because you could talk to them and you could feel them. And they were always friendly. Often they were your age as well because you had a camaraderie with them. By the time you're 6 years old, you've been talked out of all of it. All of it. And the friends just become fantasies of children. Never once would then the authority come and say, well, you know, the child actually had friends. There were sacred entities or things in the room that were for the child to make them feel better, in order to get them through difficulty. Have you ever thought about that? This perfect God, who is in your soul and loves you beyond measure, and has put you here magnificent, has also given you things to see and help when you didn't understand the language and you didn't understand the arguing parents in the other room or the energies around you that might be noisy. And you turned to those angels who became your friends. And while you needed them, dear ones, oh, they were there. And you saw them. After 6 years old, you only see the spectra that is real, that has serviced you. That is not a criticism. That's simply a fact. All of those things that were available to be seen are still there. But you choose only to see the ones that become the things you can touch, the things that are real, the things that get you through life. Biased sight, we have spoken of. We spoke of it when we were on the top of Mount Sinai, in a channeling where we discussed that which Moses saw, telling you that he had sight bias, because in his age, in his time, the only thing that made illumination was fire. There was no electricity. There were no other things that made any kind of a light except flame. Therefore, when a beautiful angelic being came to talk to him and told him to take off his shoes, a being that shone like the sun with a multidimensional light, Moses saw fire. This is the sight bias of a human. who long ago has turned off anything but what he knows. And so the burning bush was not a bush, and it didn't burn. But it's the best description that a human could give for that which was angelic and brilliant for its time. This little story is about invisible things. By the time you're 23 or so, and you've gone through those times of life which are education, growing up, you are glued to those things which are real and touchable in your life. And most humans don't then pine for the friends or the movement in the corner when they were in the crib. But after that age, something happens. You start thinking about invisible things again. You're settling into being an adult. And that is very interesting time. Because that, dear ones, is the time where you make up your mind whether God is real. This planet knows the love of God. Look around you at the systems all featuring the love of God. This is when you make the decisions quite often of the system that you wish to worship in, looking at the prophets and feeling their love. This love of God is not all that invisible. Not really. And you make up your mind at that point in time, or not. And that carries you through to another time, which I'm going to talk about in the next channel. But I want to tell you that all through this time, when you are walking on this planet with sight bias, all through this time, there's something you cannot see because you've turned away and tuned it out. You're allowed to, but you can't. And the reason is because that which used to be available to you as an infant has now been thrown away because it's not your reality. And I'll tell you what it is. As you sit here right now, all around you are those who want to hold your hand and walk through life with you. And if you doubt that, I want you to re-listen to Adironda. When she was running through airports, when she was violating the rules, when against all odds the airlines did what they did you ever wonder, were there invisible things around her? And the answer is yes. These invisible helpers that you have, dear ones, are not just ones that have your name on them. We're going to talk about that more in just a bit. They are ones for humanity. And they work puzzles between human beings and systems and relationships and the body itself and molecules. Invisible energies which are beneficial to you are all around you unless you've talked yourself out of it. Unless you've decided that this is all foolishness. Unless you hear my voice and say, well, isn't that a funny approach? And then you turn off the channel. And you never really heard the message. There's a world of invisible, sacred help that knows your name. And in this new energy, it wants to reacquaint you with the movement in the corner when you were just laying in the crib and you saw it clearly. And you recognized it and laughed because it was beautiful. That's the message from the other side of the veil. O pristine, beautiful, magnificent one. That's how God sees you even now, even today. No matter what anybody tells you, they don't have the mind of God. I'm telling you right now that there's so much invisible power at your disposal for a confluence of love on this planet in order to accomplish things that you know you're here for. Think on these things, and so it is.